Nora didn't remember leaving the attic. That was the first thing that terrified her the next morning. Not the drawings, not the creature, not even the whisper she heard beside her ear in the darkness. It was the missing time. Because one moment, she was standing upstairs surrounded by hundreds of drawings. And the next, she woke up in her bedroom downstairs fully dressed, with dirt beneath her fingernails and dried graphite dust covering her palms. And Nora realized something chilling. Something had happened after the lights went out, and her mind refused to replay it. Morning light slipped weakly through the curtains, but it didn't make the house feel safer. If anything, daylight made everything worse, more real, more permanent. Her breathing stayed shallow as she slowly sat up in bed. Every muscle in her body ached faintly, especially her wrist. At first she thought she slept on it wrong, then she looked closer. Her stomach tightened instantly. Thin black marks covered her skin. Lines, sketch marks, like someone had been drawing directly onto her body while she slept. And Nora suddenly understood something terrifying. The creature didn't stop copying her last night. Her fingers trembled as she rubbed at the marks. They didn't smear. They looked embedded beneath the skin itself, like pencil trapped under flesh. A soft knock suddenly came from her bedroom door. Nora froze instantly. Her mother's voice followed carefully. "Nora, are you awake?" The fear in her mother's tone returned immediately. Not panic, recognition. Like she already knew what Nora was about to say before hearing it. Slowly, Nora opened the door. Her mother stood there, holding a stack of old photo albums tightly against her chest. And the moment she saw Nora's wrist, the color drained from her face completely. "Oh no," she whispered. Nora's chest tightened. "You knew this would happen." Her mother looked away immediately, and that silence confirmed everything. And Nora realized something devastating. Her mother had hidden far more than just the drawings. The kitchen felt painfully quiet an hour later. Neither of them touched the coffee sitting between them. Rain tapped softly against the windows outside while the old photo albums remained stacked on the table untouched. Nora stared at them uneasily. "What am I supposed to see in those?" Her mother swallowed hard before answering. "Proof." A pause. "That it's been changing things for years." Cold dread slid slowly through Nora's chest. Her mother opened the first album carefully. Childhood birthdays, school pictures, family trips, normal memories, until Nora noticed something wrong. In one photograph, she stood beside a little girl she didn't recognize. Dark hair, same age, standing too close to her. Her stomach tightened instantly, because despite not recognizing the girl, she felt familiar, uncomfortably familiar. And Nora realized something terrifying. The girl looked exactly like the child from the final attic photograph. Her breathing became uneven. "Who is that?" Her mother didn't answer immediately. Instead, she slowly turned the page. Another photograph. The same girl again, standing beside Nora at the park. Then another, always nearby, always watching the camera strangely. And in every picture, her face looked slightly clearer than before, more detailed, more complete. Her mother's hands shook slightly as she whispered, "That's your cousin Lily." Nora frowned instantly. "I don't have a cousin named Lily." The silence afterward felt suffocating, because her mother looked like she wanted to disagree, but couldn't. And that realization made Nora's blood run cold. Someone had already been erased from memory once before. Rain slammed harder against the windows outside. The house creaked softly around them. Her mother closed the photo album carefully. "She disappeared when you were 8. Nora's chest tightened painfully. "What do you mean, disappeared?" Another pause. Then her mother whispered the words Nora least wanted to hear. "We stopped remembering her." Silence swallowed the kitchen. Nora stared at her mother without breathing. Because deep down, she already believed her. Her mother continued quietly. "At first, it was small things. Missing photos, teachers forgetting her name, family members accidentally leaving her out of stories." A pause. Then eventually, it became impossible to remember she existed unless we were directly looking at a picture. The realization hit Nora so hard she felt nauseous, because suddenly, she understood the creature's process. It didn't erase people instantly. It replaced them gradually, through forgotten details, lost memories, distorted recognition. And Nora realized something horrifying. The creature wasn't killing people. It was editing them out of reality slowly enough that nobody noticed. Her breathing shook. What happened to Lily? Her mother looked toward the attic ceiling upstairs, fear spreading visibly across her face again. Then she whispered, "She finished changing." The kitchen lights flickered once, and somewhere upstairs, a pencil began scratching softly across paper. The most terrifying disappearances aren't physical. They happen inside memory first. And once enough, people forget who you were. Something else gets to decide who replaces you. The scratching upstairs suddenly stopped. Then Nora's mother whispered something that made her blood freeze. "It's drawing again." The scratching upstairs continued, slow, steady, deliberate, like someone calmly sketching details with complete concentration. Neither Nora nor her mother moved. The kitchen suddenly felt smaller than before, trapped beneath the weight of whatever was happening above them. And the worst part, the sound didn't feel random. It felt purposeful. And Nora realized something terrifying. Something upstairs was actively creating new drawings right now. Her throat tightened painfully. "How long has this been happening?" Her mother stared toward the ceiling for several seconds before answering. "Longer than you remember." A pause. "Longer than I remember." The words settled heavily inside the room, because memory itself no longer felt reliable. Not after Lily. Not after the missing photographs. Not after realizing people could disappear slowly enough for reality to adjust around the absence. Her chest tightened. "How did you stop it before?" Her mother's expression darkened instantly. "We didn't." Another pause. "We only slowed it down." And that realization made Nora understand something devastating. The creature had never actually been defeated. The scratching upstairs stopped suddenly. Absolute silence followed. Then, one loud rip, paper tearing. Nora flinched instinctively, because deep down, she already knew something new had just been finished. The kitchen lights dimmed softly overhead, and for one brief second, Nora saw movement reflected in the microwave door behind her. A figure standing at the kitchen entrance, tall, still, watching them. She spun around immediately. Nothing. But when she looked back at the reflection, the figure remained there, her breathing caught sharply, because now it looked clearer than before, more human. Its unfinished face had begun forming details. Eyes, lips, cheekbones, all resembling her more accurately now. And Nora realized something horrifying. The creature wasn't copying randomly anymore. It was refining her specifically. Her mother noticed the reflection too. The fear in her eyes deepened instantly. "Don't look directly at it too long," she whispered urgently. Nora's heartbeat quickened. "Why?" Her mother swallowed hard. "Because it learns through observation both ways." Cold dread spread through Nora's chest. Both ways. Meaning she wasn't just seeing it. It was seeing her more clearly every second she focused on it. Her eyes snapped away from the reflection immediately. But it was too late. Because now, she could still picture its face perfectly in her mind even without looking. And that realization terrified her most of all. She had already started memorizing it. The scratching upstairs resumed. Faster this time, aggressive, like frantic sketching. Her mother stood abruptly from the table. "We need to leave the house." Nora looked at her sharply. "Will that even matter?" Silence answered first. Then her mother whispered, "No." The honesty hit harder than comfort would have. Because now, they both understood the same thing. The creature wasn't attached to the attic or the house. It was attached to recognition, memory, attention. And Nora had already given it all three. And Nora realized something chilling. She may have reopened a connection that was never supposed to exist again. A loud thud echoed upstairs. Then another. Like drawers being pulled open violently. Cabinets slamming. Papers scattering. The house itself felt restless now. Awake. Her mother moved quickly toward the hallway closet and pulled out an old metal lockbox Nora had never seen before. Inside were dozens of burned photographs, half-destroyed drawings, journal pages covered in frantic handwriting, and one cassette tape labeled, "For Nora, if it comes back." Her chest tightened instantly. "You made this for me?" Her mother nodded weakly. Years of exhaustion suddenly visible across her face. "You made me promise." Nora froze. "What?" Her mother looked directly at her now and whispered the sentence that shattered what little stability she still had left. "You've survived this before." Silence consumed the kitchen. Nora stared at her without blinking, because her mind rejected the words immediately. But her body didn't. Something deep inside her reacted with horrible familiarity. And Nora realized something terrifying. Part of her may already remember this happening once before. The scratching upstairs stopped again. Then, slow footsteps began moving across the attic floor directly above them. One step at a time. Measured. Heavy. Listening. Her mother shoved the cassette tape into Nora's trembling hands. "You forgot on purpose last time," she whispered urgently. And if you remember too much too quickly." A loud crash interrupted her. Something massive slammed against the attic floor overhead. Dust drifted from the ceiling instantly. Then, the footsteps stopped directly above the kitchen. Nora's breathing became shallow, because now she could hear another sound, soft, wet. Her skin prickled instinctively, not because she saw something, because she felt watched now, actually watched. Her eyes slowly lifted toward the far corner of the attic. Darkness, stillness, nothing unusual. Yet her body refused to relax. The same instinct kept repeating louder and louder inside her chest. "Don't stay up here." But she couldn't stop now. Not after this. Not after realizing the drawings weren't random memories or predictions. They were records, warnings, maybe even messages. Her hands shook slightly as she searched deeper into the box. More folded papers, some thicker than others. One sealed completely with tape. One stained dark around the edges. And one labeled in large, shaky letters. "Do not look until it sees you too." Nora's breathing became uneven again. Because deep down, she already knew. Whatever her younger self feared wasn't in the future anymore. It was already here. The worst part about predicting the future is realizing the future may already know about you too. A soft sound came from behind the attic boxes. Not movement, breathing. The breathing stopped the moment Nora looked up. Silence swallowed the attic again so quickly that for a second she questioned whether she imagined it entirely. But her body didn't believe that. Her body had already reacted. Every muscle remained tense, her heartbeat uneven, her skin cold, because instinct recognizes danger faster than logic ever can. And Nora realized something chilling. She was no longer scared of the drawings. She was scared of whatever inspired them. Slowly, she stood from the floor. The old attic wood creaked softly beneath her feet. Too loud. Every sound suddenly felt exposed up here. The hanging light bulb swung slightly overhead, though she didn't remember touching anything. Her eyes remained locked on the dark corner behind the stacked boxes. Nothing moved, yet the feeling remained. Watching, waiting. And that stillness frightened her more than movement would have. Her breathing stayed shallow as she stepped backward carefully toward the attic ladder. Not running. Not yet. Because part of her still needed answers more than safety. Her gaze dropped briefly toward the sealed drawing again. The one labeled, "Do not look until it sees you too." A horrible thought slowly formed inside her chest. What if the breathing meant it already had? Her stomach tightened instantly, because suddenly, the warning no longer sounded metaphorical, and Nora realized something terrifying. Her younger self wasn't trying to predict events. She was documenting encounters. The attic felt colder now. Not emotionally. Actually, colder. Her breath had started appearing faintly in front of her. That wasn't normal. Not in summer. Not in this house. The light bulb flickered softly once. Then again. Nora swallowed hard. Every instinct screamed at her to leave immediately. But another feeling overpowered it. Curiosity. Dangerous curiosity. The kind that survives even while fear is begging you to stop. Slowly. Very slowly. She picked up the sealed drawing. The paper felt thicker than the others. Heavier somehow, like multiple pages had been taped together tightly. Her fingers hesitated at the edge, and Nora understood something unsettling. Part of her already believed opening this drawing would change everything permanently. The attic creaked softly behind her, not the house settling. A footstep. Her entire body froze instantly. The sound came from the opposite side of the attic. Slow. Measured, not loud enough to prove anything, but enough. Enough for her instincts to know she was no longer alone. Her breathing became uneven again. "Nobody's there," she whispered automatically. But the words sounded weak, like she was trying to calm herself more than convince herself. The silence stretched painfully. Then, another step. Closer. Nora spun around sharply. Nothing. Still nothing. But now the hanging light bulb swung harder overhead, and she noticed something she hadn't before. The attic window behind her was open. She was certain it had been closed earlier. A cold breeze slipped slowly into the room, and with it came a smell. Wet dirt, rain, old wood. Her chest tightened painfully, because suddenly, a memory surfaced. A childhood memory she hadn't thought about in years. Standing outside this same attic door at night, hearing movement upstairs, hearing scratching sounds above the ceiling, and her mother saying firmly, "Don't go up there after dark." At the time, Nora thought it was normal parenting. Now, she wasn't so sure. And Nora realized something horrifying. Her mother may have known about this long before she did. The sealed drawing trembled slightly in her hands, not moving on its own. Her hands were shaking that badly now. Another creak sounded behind her, closer this time. Too close. Her throat tightened, slowly, terrified of what she might see. She turned her head toward the dark corner again, and for one brief second, the house went completely still. And then, her own voice whispered softly from the ceiling, "You left me there before." Nora's blood ran cold instantly, because the voice didn't sound copied anymore. It sounded emotional, hurt. Her mother stepped backward immediately. "No," she whispered. Nora looked at her sharply. "What does that mean?" But before her mother could answer, every light in the kitchen shut off. Darkness swallowed the room completely. Nora gasped sharply. Then came the scratching. Not upstairs anymore. Inside the kitchen, all around them. Fast, violent, pencils dragging across walls at impossible speed. Her breathing became ragged, because she could hear dozens of them at once, drawing frantically in the dark. And Nora realized something horrifying. The creature no longer needed the attic to create. The scratching suddenly stopped. Absolute silence followed. Then, the lights flickered back on. Nora nearly screamed. The kitchen walls were covered completely in fresh drawings, hundreds of them, all new, all detailed, and every single drawing showed the same thing. Nora standing in front of a mirror. But the reflection wasn't matching her in every picture. The reflection stood slightly differently, smiled differently, moved independently. Her stomach twisted violently, because the final drawing, the one directly in front of her, showed Nora with no reflection at all. Only the creature remained in the glass. And that image made Nora understand the final stage of replacement. Eventually, the original disappears completely. Her mother began crying softly behind her. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, like someone reliving a nightmare they once barely escaped. "You made me promise," her mother whispered shakily. Nora turned slowly toward her. "What promise?" Tears streamed down her mother's face now. And then she said the one thing Nora least expected. "If it ever came back fully." A pause. "You told me not to trust you." Silence consumed the kitchen. Nora stared at her without breathing, because suddenly, something shifted inside her memory. Not a full memory, a feeling. Sitting at the same kitchen table years ago, crying, begging her mother to lock the attic if she started changing again. Her chest tightened painfully. "No," she whispered weakly, but her mother nodded. "You said it talks through you when it gets stronger." Cold dread spread slowly through Nora's body, because now, certain missing moments from childhood felt wrong, not absent, edited. And Nora realized something devastating. She may have already spoken for the creature before without knowing it. A soft laugh suddenly echoed through the kitchen. Not from upstairs, not from the hallway, from directly behind Nora. She froze instantly. Her mother's face drained of color, because standing in the dark reflection of the kitchen window was Nora, perfectly detailed now, perfectly human, smiling softly. And this time, it blinked before she did. The scariest thing about losing yourself is that sometimes another version of you keeps living normally afterward. The reflection slowly raised its hand, and Nora felt her own arm beginning to move with it involuntarily, like her body was forgetting which version was real. Nora tried to stop her arm from moving, but the moment the reflection lifted its hand, her own muscles responded instinctively. like her body recognized the motion before her mind did. Her fingers twitched upward slowly, matching it. Her breathing became ragged instantly, because she wasn't choosing the movement. Something deeper inside her was. And Nora realized something horrifying. Her body could no longer fully tell the difference between itself and the copy. The reflection smiled wider inside the kitchen window. Perfectly human now, perfectly her, except for the eyes. Those empty white outlines remained unfinished, staring at her with calm familiarity. Her mother grabbed her shoulder violently. "Nora, look away from it!" The command snapped something inside her loose. Her arm dropped instantly. She stumbled backward, gasping sharply like she had just surfaced from underwater. The reflection remained still, watching, patiently. Not angry. Certain. Like it already knew resistance wouldn't last forever. And that calmness frightened Nora more than aggression would have. Her mother hurried toward the lockbox again, pulling out an old folded paper buried beneath the burned photographs. The page looked ancient, edges darkened, covered in frantic handwriting. Nora frowned immediately, because the handwriting was hers, not adult Nora, child Nora, messy, uneven, terrified. Her mother unfolded it carefully. At the top of the page, written in large, shaky letters, were 7 words. "If it learns your face, run." Cold dread slid down Nora's spine. Below the warning were dozens of smaller notes scattered chaotically across the paper. Some crossed out repeatedly, some barely readable. But one sentence stood out immediately. "Mirrors help it remember people." Nora's chest tightened painfully, because suddenly, every reflection in the kitchen felt dangerous. The microwave door, the windows, even the dark screen of her phone lying nearby. Her younger self had known enough to write instructions, known enough to fear her own reflection. And Nora realized something devastating. This creature had been studying her since childhood long enough for her younger self to create survival rules. The scratching sound returned suddenly, not upstairs, inside the walls, slow graphite scraping moving through the house itself. The reflection in the window tilted its head slightly, listening, too. Then it whispered softly, "You are remembering faster this time." Nora froze instantly, this time. Her throat tightened. Because the creature wasn't speaking vaguely anymore. It was referencing specific previous encounters. Her previous encounters. What do you mean this time?" The reflection smiled softly. And then, it answered using Nora's childhood voice. The first version lasted longer. Her mother immediately stepped between Nora and the window. "Stop talking to it!" But it was too late. The sentence had already landed. Version, not attempt, not victim. Version. And Nora suddenly realized something terrifying. The creature may have copied her successfully before. Fragments exploded violently through her mind now. Not memories, pieces. A little girl staring into a mirror too long. Papers covering bedroom walls. Her mother crying while burning drawings in the backyard. And another memory. One so disturbing. Her stomach twisted instantly. A little girl standing in the hallway smiling calmly while her mother whispered, "That's not my daughter anymore." Nora stumbled backward sharply. Her breathing turned panicked. "No, no, no!" Her mother grabbed her face urgently. "Nora, listen to me." Tears streamed down her mother's cheeks now. "You came back once." The words shattered through her, because suddenly, the gaps in her childhood didn't feel accidental anymore. They felt replaced, edited, like sections of her life had been removed and rewritten quietly around her. And Nora realized something horrifying. She may not be the original version of herself anymore either. The kitchen lights flickered violently. The reflection disappeared from the window, then reappeared in the microwave. Closer now, smiling wider. Its mouth moved slowly. "You always figure it out eventually." Nora's chest tightened painfully, because part of her no longer knew whether she was remembering the truth or becoming part of the creature's version of it. And that uncertainty was breaking her faster than fear. The scratching inside the walls intensified, suddenly. Faster, closer, all around them. Then, the sound stopped directly beneath the kitchen floor. Silence. A horrible silence. Before one final line slowly appeared across the wooden floorboards beneath Nora's feet. Not carved, drawn. Graphite pushing upward through the cracks like invisible hands were sketching from underneath the house. 7 words formed slowly beneath her. "You were never the last version." The worst kind of horror isn't dying. It's discovering you may already be a replacement, pretending to be the original. Nora slowly looked toward the family photos hanging nearby, and for the first time, she noticed her face looked slightly different in every picture. Nora stared at the family photographs until her vision blurred. Now that she noticed it, she couldn't unsee it. Her face was different in every picture. Not dramatically, subtly, different smiles, different eye shapes, different expressions that felt almost disconnected from one another, like multiple people had slowly learned how to imitate the same identity over time. Her breathing became uneven, because suddenly, she didn't know which face was originally hers anymore. And Nora realized something horrifying. Memory wasn't the only thing being rewritten. Identity was too. The graphite words beneath the floorboards remained visible. "You were never the last version." Her mother stood frozen across the kitchen, tears silently falling down her face, as if she had already accepted something Nora still refused to fully understand. "No," Nora whispered weakly. But the denial felt fragile now, because too many things made sense. The memory gaps, the missing years, the strange feeling of unfamiliarity whenever she looked at old childhood pictures. Even the recurring nightmares she'd had for years. Dreams where she stared into mirrors and saw someone else blinking back. And suddenly Nora understood something devastating. Those weren't nightmares. They were memories leaking through damaged identity. The scratching sound returned softly beneath the floor. Slow, calm, like something patient enough to wait forever. The kitchen lights dimmed again, and every reflective surface in the room darkened slightly. Not enough to become black, just enough for shapes to appear behind the reflections. Watching. Dozens of them. Versions. Incomplete faces standing silently beyond the glass. Her chest tightened painfully, because now she understood what the creature truly was. Not one entity, a chain. Copies replacing copies until the original identity disappeared entirely. And Nora realized something terrifying. She may not have been fighting a monster, but a process. Her mother stepped closer carefully. "Nora, listen to me." But Nora barely heard her, because another memory had surfaced, clearer than all the others. A basement, cold concrete floors, child Nora crying while drawing frantically on paper, and her mother kneeling beside her asking, "Which one are you right now?" The memory shattered through her chest violently, because she remembered the answer. Not fully, but enough. Enough to understand why her mother looked so broken now. And Nora suddenly realized something horrifying. There had been moments in childhood when even her mother couldn't recognize her anymore. Her breathing shook. "Mom," she whispered weakly. But her mother's expression changed suddenly, fear replacing sadness instantly. "Nora, don't move." Her stomach dropped, because her mother wasn't looking at her. She was looking behind her, slowly, terrified of what she might see. Nora turned toward the kitchen window, and her entire body locked. The reflection wasn't matching her anymore. It stood independently inside the glass, perfectly complete now, perfectly human, perfectly Nora. And for the first time, its eyes were finished, dark, alive, aware. The reflection smiled softly, not maliciously, relieved. "You remembered enough," it whispered. Nora's heartbeat slowed unnaturally, because the voice sounded comforting now, familiar, like hearing herself after years apart. And that realization scared her more than anything else. The copy no longer felt wrong to her. Her mother grabbed a burned photograph from the table suddenly and threw it toward the window. The glass shattered instantly. The reflection disappeared. And for one brief second, Nora felt part of herself tear with it. She screamed sharply and collapsed to her knees. Pain exploded through her chest like something internal had been ripped loose violently. Her mother rushed toward her immediately. "It's trying to anchor itself to you." Nora's breathing became ragged, because now she understood why the creature kept returning, why it copied identities, why it needed recognition. It wasn't feeding, it was surviving, through replacement, through continuation, like a sketch traced repeatedly over old paper until the original lines vanished underneath. And Nora realized the final terrifying truth. The creature didn't erase people because it hated them. It erased them because becoming them was the only way it knew how to exist. The house trembled softly around them, every wall covered in drawings now, every surface layered with graphite sketches of Nora across different ages and versions. And slowly, the drawings began changing, right in front of her, each version of Nora fading one by one, until only one remained, the completed reflection, standing alone, smiling calmly. Her mother's breathing broke into quiet sobs. "Please," she whispered shakily, "tell me which one you are." Silence filled the kitchen. Nora opened her mouth to answer, and froze. Because for the first time in her life, she genuinely didn't know. The lights flickered violently one final time. Darkness swallowed the room. Then, very softly, a pencil began drawing again. Maybe the scariest thing about identity is realizing it can be copied slowly enough that nobody notices when the original disappears. 3 weeks later, Nora's mother burned every remaining drawing in the house, but one photograph survived untouched. In the picture, Nora smiled normally beside her mother. Completely human, completely real, except for one detail. The person holding the camera had Nora's face too.